Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And today we're going to help you with remedies for cold and flu virus symptoms. And we have been seeing a lot of this going on, so we thought we'd do a show specifically about, pneumonia-type symptoms, cold virus. What do you have? I mean, what's going on? Do you really have the flu? Are there natural preventative things that you could do to help boost your immune system to help keep it away from you? And the answer to that question is yes, there is, because we've been doing it. So we wanted to share with you before you get sick or start coming down with something, some of the signs and some of the things you can do, and maybe some of the things you're eating that's actually causing you to have a lower immune system. And we've also got a lot of exciting questions we're going to get to, and some products that you probably have not heard about that we would like to tell you about as well. So, Dr. Lewis, can you help us with possibly not getting sick this season? There's so many that already are, and I know, there's a new virus coming in from China. There's so much fear happening. So can you give us a little hope and light and some natural things that we could be doing?
Well, first of all, I don't think I will ever succumb to fear, because that causes a lot of stress, which I'm sure we'll talk even more about. But if you feel stressed mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, whatever, that can make you more prone to get sick in the first place. So, geez, y'all chill out and have fun. There's a lot of things you can take that's going to help your immune system. One of the things I tell people is, well, if you take it and don't get an illness, how do you know you prevented it? Well, if you change the oil in your truck, how do you know you stopped that engine from blowing? That's just common sense. Give your body something to work with.
Well, people wonder, do the natural products work? I'm telling you, as from a kid on, every year you could bet I was going to get some sort of bronchitis. I think Dr. Lewis was a lot like that. He always had bronchitis. And we have some supplements that we actually take that starts warding that off way before it becomes to the point that you're in the hospital for pneumonia.
Yeah, it's not that natural things, can prevent everything, and it's not a alternative to good medical care. If you're in a life-saving or, life and death situation, go to the hospital. They'll save your life, but there's so much you can do. She talks about bronchitis, and I've many times have this in my throat, and I'm sure I would have gotten full-blown bronchitis had it not been for Janet. She gives me a whole bunch of stuff to take because I'm a typical man, and I do take a lot of my own stuff. I really do. And I literally would not have lived this long or been this healthy, but she gives me more than I would take for my own. So this round of illness that's come through, I bet I'm about 5% as bad as I would have been, say, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and it's not just us saying that. We had actually a Facebook review from one of our very loved patients, Carl. He talked about coming down. It was on a Sunday evening. The crud got him full blown on Monday. He came into the office here and looked like he needed to be in bed. And he asked me, well, what do I take? He said, I've got to get rid of this. I'm really getting sick. And he stopped and, picked everything up and followed the directions of what I told him. And he's happy to say that as of Tuesday, which is 2 days later, the crud had completely departed. And he said, I don't know of anything over the counter that works that fast. And most of the time, by the time you look like him, you're not coming back for a while without a round of antibiotics. So, we want to help you not go through that, because that is a horrible thing to be that sick. We're watching on Facebook, people laying in bed for 2 and 3, 4 days. They can't move.
Or in the hospital for a week.
Yeah, and, the bill that goes with that, the stress that goes with that.
You don't think a $50,000 bill is going to stress you, do you?
Well, we've got one friend that's up there now with pneumonia, and they didn't even offer her food the first day or water. And I'm thinking, wow, you're already sick, and now you're not getting the kind of care that you should have, and that's
hospital food will make you sick, though.
That's true. They give you all this sugary stuff. So
sugar's really horrible for your white blood cell count, and one of the easiest ways to get sick is just to eat a whole bunch of sugar.
And that's interesting you say that, because people don't correlate the carbs at all with any of that you're actually creating, because the immune system, like 80% of it's in the gut. And when you start eating carbohydrates, then they turn to sugar, and then it brings your immune system down, and then you can't fight things off. And I know, like last night, I had some of the little, gluten-free nut chips, and I ate way too many of them. I knew I did. And then in the night, I thought, oh my gosh, I feel congested, which,
even though it's gluten-free, is still pretty high carb load.
Which whenever, like I was eating pistachios before and not having any problem at all, but you change over to some sort of a chip or some kind of carb like that, it really does bring your immune system down, and you just don't really think about those things.
Well, one of the things to think about is, we all need to chill out. We need to get off of our busy world. All we talk about is, oh, I'm busy or I'm stressed. And it's like, well, yeah, the more you talk about it, the more you're going to get it. So you have to learn to eat a little bit healthier. Exercise, which is not my favorite thing to do. I'm active. Get good sleep, decrease your stress. You have to up your vitamin D levels. And yes, I know Michael in Florida says, but I'm out on the beach every day. Yeah, well, you're so full of toxins. You really don't, or we don't really convert sunlight to vitamin D because of the plastics and pesticides, et cetera, et cetera. So it's better to supplement, and you've got to keep in mind, folks, people say, well, I'm supplementing. Yeah, well, it's not working. Most supplements are like your eggs. They don't work.
And yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned vitamin D, because it's actually a big flu-fighting nutrient. Because the universal vaccine that was developed is supposed to be helping immune cells known as CD8 T cells, so that people either don't get sick or they only experience mild flu symptoms. But did you know that vitamin D is actually known to have direct immune modulating effect on CD8 T cells?
And phytoestrogens from food and soy and intestinal bacteria they produce from the diet through your gut from the bacteria. Gut bacteria can induce or repress something called the P450 pathway, which is liver detoxification through metabolism of all kinds of things I can't even pronounce, or I don't like the chemistry anyway, but it helps with the chemicals in the cruciferous vegetables, and that's why we push DIM and indole-3-carbinol, like cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. But the gut bacteria, and that goes back to what Janice said, 80% of your immune system's in your GI tract. So phytoestrogens and things like bioflavonoids, for example, my favorite thing is Immune Essentials. It has all those healthy mushrooms, but it also has green tea extract. Very, very important.
Oh, yeah. The cordyceps that are in Immune Essentials for lungs is phenomenal. And I know we talk a lot about that, but the mushrooms in that are huge for lung health. Another one that we have not really talked about, we did last year, and it really has worked. And I thought, we hadn't even mentioned that on any of our shows this year. You guys are always good at taking elderberry for trying to prevent flus and colds, but we have our ViraPro in now. It was on back order because of the flu season, but we have it here now, and it has the European elderberry in it. And
but it has other immune system boosting stuff. Vitamin A, we don't get enough of. Vitamin C, the good B12, pantothenic acid, which helps your stress levels and your cortisol.
And I'm not saying it gets rid of the flu, but I can tell you, if you start taking 2 of those, when you start feeling achy or feel like you're coming down with something, and it's like, I really don't know what's happening, but there's nothing I can really do to stop it. I just don't feel like I feel well. If you start doing 2 of those ViraPro and taking 2 every 3 hours, within a day, it's roughly gone. I think we have maybe experienced the flu-like stuff twice already this season, and both times we've stopped it before it became anything worse. I don't know if it was a flu. I don't know if I ate something bad. I don't know, but it totally stopped it in its tracks where it didn't go any further. So,
and the astragalus is even good in cancer research, and it's in there.
Yeah, that product is phenomenal. So if you don't have that in your repertoire of things to take, then you really want to consider getting the ViraPro, is what it's called, ViraPro, and just keep it in your medicine cabinet and on your shelves. And the other thing we wanted to talk a little bit about that really helps with viral type things like colds, flu, pneumonia type symptoms is something called lauricidin. You probably heard us mention that a couple of times, but lauricidin is a monolaurin. It's what's found in mama's chicken noodle soup. So when you got sick as a kid, mama would make you chicken noodle soup, and then you would start feeling better because of the lauric acid that's in the chicken noodle soup. Well, lauricidin is actually the monolaurin that's from that, and they're little pellets. And I usually do two of the little scoops that's inside of it at a time. You don't chew them. They look like they're very chewable. It says coconut. They are not coconut. I promise you, they don't taste great. So don't chew them. You put them in your mouth and just swallow them with water. And it kills yeast and fungus, and really great for lung health. I did a couple of scoops of that this morning because it really does help viral type things and colds. Dr. Lewis is going to add to that. I hope he is. He's having a coughing attack. I think this is the devil messing with him over here. Going, I'm going to fix him up so he can continue on here.
Yeah, but it's only about 5% as bad as it would have been normally. It sounds a lot worse than it is.
We just got Dr. Lewis fixed up with a little bit of something called DMG liquid, which was not on our topics to discuss today, but he's got a little bit of tickle in his throat, and the DMG liquid actually helps oxygen utilization, so it helps him breathe a little bit deeper. So we're hoping it will bring him back here for a second and he can retain his voice to finish the show. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is ingesting plenty of beneficial bacteria in foods you eat, especially fermented foods. And, we always talk about John, who is doing the fermented scobies. He just did one for ProBioLean on our Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. He took a picture of it. It looked like buttermilk pie, but it's supposed to be really good to drink, or sauerkraut or things like that. But they said in one study, the 3 to 5-year-old children who received either a single strain or a combination of beneficial bacteria, which we call probiotics, twice a day for 6 months had reduced fever by 53% and 73% respectively. And again, that's all coming out of your gut. So probiotics are huge at helping to prevent things.
We have one special probiotic called ENT probiotic, which is a different strain of streptococcus that you can let that lozenge dissolve in your mouth. Excuse me. And it will kill the bad bacteria, even the bad strep. And I've had people that keep it, of course, on hand for their kids, but for themselves. And they say it's a miracle in taking care of a sore throat when it's strep and that kind of thing.
And doing a good probiotic actually decreases coughing by 41% and 62%. So, we do like the Probio Ease, which is our favorite if you have constipation issues, which is another reason why you might develop more coughing issues, that you're not going to have proper bowel movements like you should. So you're a little bit backed up there. The Probio Ease will help get that one through, and Probio Complete is another one that helps. So either one of those, one's refrigerated, one is not, but they're on our website. Probiotics actually reduce runny noses by 28% to 59%. And people never think about that and know you're not getting it out of your yogurt. It's not enough. It's probably not hardly even in there. So make sure you get a reputable company's probiotic.
I just buy it from us. And as bad as I sound here, I promise you it's only just a touch of what it would have been. Janet, she opened this up, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. People that have a less healthy gut bacteria, they many times can cause the wrong sugar products to stick to the cell membranes, and that gets into all kinds of chemistry and biochemistry. But they stick to the cell membranes of the lining of the intestines, and what that does long term is affects the gene expression and the genetic function, and then these babies end up having immune system problems. And that's why it's incredibly important to alter gene expression before you get pregnant, during your pregnancy. Reinoculate your children, babies, with good bacteria, and we know which ones. We have those, because if you can alter that genetic expression, they grow up to be much, much healthier than they would otherwise. And, again, this is not opinion. This is research that I read. So.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, thought you were going to give me some research that you read there.
Well, I can.
No, I was going to tell you that reduced antibiotic use by 68% to 84% is by doing a probiotic. And anytime you're taking antibiotics, which, sometimes they're necessary, but they kill the good probiotics for a good length of time, correct?
It depends on what research you read. It takes you 2 months to 2 years to reinoculate your GI tract with good bacteria after a 10-day round of antibiotics. There's other research that says you never get it right. After that, you have to continually work on it. And I think that's true, because when we eat our typical food that has antibiotics in it, like chicken and steroids and things like that, it's I think smart to take probiotics every day. So, you just have to work on the GI tract. And Janet mentioned the word fever. Most of us have been taught, well, you got to kill a fever. If you allow that fever to run its course, it actually burns out the bacteria virus much more quickly, because the virus and bacteria can replicate or duplicate itself on the average of every 20 minutes. It can double. But if you're running a fever, they live out their life, but they do not replicate or duplicate themselves. So unless the fever gets, oh my God, horribly high, go ahead and run that fever, because you'll get over the illness much, much more quickly. And there's a really good book called How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And it helps you think about these things in kind of in a different light.
Well, sometimes, we have patients that come in here on the other perspective. They've been doing probiotics so long, and then sometimes they'll get sick and they'll come in and go, but I don't want to take these antibiotics because I don't want to kill off everything that I've taken. And we get that, but sometimes you need to do the antibiotics as well. There's a time and place for all of it, and you're going to know that you're at a certain place that you better go do something, because the outcome's not going to be good. So don't go off the deep end the other direction either and say, I'm never going to take an antibiotic, because they are useful. Yes. They're just overdone many times, and you could, if you put good probiotics in, you could certainly lessen the number of times that you actually needed it. And whenever you do need it, they will actually work better on you, because the more you're on those, the more it takes to work. I remember having respiratory stuff so bad when I was in my 20s that I was on the highest antibiotic they could give you for respiratory health, which scared me, because I thought, I'm in my 20s. What are they going to do, when I'm in my 30s and I have this happen to me, and then there's nothing else left. So that was a pretty big moment in my life that I said, I better start looking into doing something a little bit different here, because I can't keep relying on these antibiotics. So we're trying to help you be a little bit healthier. And then, we want to mention a little bit about your sleep schedule and your stress, because a lot of times getting sick is because you're not resting enough, and you are, and you're stressed out. We just came off a holiday season here. A lot of people are still stressed from the financial burden that gave them. There's, we've got several clients here that just had a death in the family, so they're dealing with that as well. So your body becomes overly fatigued and burned out, and it gets harder for you to fight the flu. But chronic stress also exerts a powerful negative influence on your epigenetic health, turning on and off the expression of genes that directly influence your likelihood of getting sick. And there's another product that we haven't really talked about much, but we want to tell you about, and I've been taking it every day. Of course, I take all kind of things, but some things that have really given us energy and really helped stress, adaptogenic herbs. It's a product called Bacopa 320. Many times we'll give it to people that have a low thyroid function or low T4 thyroid. So what it does, it is actually a high-potency, standardized whole-plant Bacopa. It's called a CDRIO8. It's a registered trademark Bacopa. It's not just like any Bacopa you're buying over the counter. But not only does it help with stress management, but it also is shown to support cognitive function, your spatial working memory, new information retention, and mood. And I can tell you, whenever I don't take that in the mornings, I don't have near the energy. I want more coffee, and it's like I just can't get going well without it. But I take 2 of them every morning, and it really does help with stress. So it's
thank you for not saying it has to do with my mood. I appreciate it very much.
Oh no, your mood's great.
Yeah. She said I don't even talk to her until the first or second cup of coffee, which kind of is true. But this helping the memory so much. It's where you can actually multitask and still maintain the knowledge, like navigating a map. You still maintain that, and multitasking is really, really good. And yes, it works, and she gives it to me because she's always trying to get my memory to where it's better. And it's pretty good. I guess she's doing a good job.
That's the spatial working memory of where you can actually complete the task that you're trying to achieve.
Right. That goes back to, us men will get around to it sooner or later. You don't have to nag us for a year or two to get it done. We're going to get it done. We can complete the task. Just takes a while. Well,
that would make sense about why I did so good handling the stress of putting our name on all these products. I think we private labeled 150, 200 products over the summer last year, and Dr. Lewis said, "You're really doing well with this." And I thought, I really am. I'm not sure really what's causing that, but yes, I was. And I was taking that Bacopa 320, so very well could have been. And then here's another interesting thing about the flu, things to avoid the flu naturally. Did you know taking a high-quality source of omega fatty 3s, which is, a really good fish oil, can also help maintain your health? And it is also important to avoid damaged omega-6 oils. And if you don't know what those are, you have to think vegetable oils, because they'll seriously damage your immune response. So using bad oils is not good.
I've got a list in my head. This is spatial working memory. Good oils, or no, not good. Therapeutic oils, number 1, fish oil. Number 2, krill. We don't talk about krill very much, but we do have it, and it is the good stuff. Primrose, borage oil. We have that with the omega-3s, the borage. MCT, lecithin, hemp, CLA. We have that. Black currant's also good. Then dietary fats that are beyond therapeutic and goes to good is olive oil, safflower, walnut, almond, pecan. We use a lot of that. Avocado and coconut. Stay the heck away from canola, the hydrogenated or the trans fats, which are oxidized forms of such things. So it really helps also if you take vitamin E with that, and that has to be a good vitamin E. But just remember there's therapeutic fats, good fats, and then there's bad fats. So it boosts the immune system.
That's right. And we're going to try to get through a couple of our questions here. I've kind of talked a lot for Dr. Lewis today because I didn't want him getting choked. But if he's back now, we'll finish some of these questions. I probably won't get to all of them.
We'll see.
Penny wants to know what happened with your kombucha experiment.
I've got 3 really beautiful scobies and have not done anything with it. And John keeps telling me how to do it, and I just hadn't done it yet. I guess I will someday.
Well, she wants to know if there's a way to test the desired biotic material to see if it's been cultured or not.
Well, and I think the best answer is go to your local college and see if your microbiologist will do that for you. But if you start out with a clean jar, And you just boil the tea, let it get down to room temperature, and just throw in a probiotic. John's doing the probioline right now. You're throwing in the right probiotics. I wouldn't test it personally, but I guess you could at your university.
It does look really strange. John put a video on our Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis on the Facebook, and he shows it opening up and stuff, and it's pretty combustible. And I thought, I'm sure it's great. It just looks odd.
A lot of carbonated and a lot of bubbles coming out. And that's why he told me to open it over the sink. And I being the really brilliant guy I am, said, I've had beer like that, which you don't shake it up first.
And then Claudia says, Dr. Lewis, my friend's having some serious GI tract issues, fever, diarrhea, vomiting, yellow bile. I believe he went to the emergency room, but should I send him to you? Run some serious labs, or is this beyond you?
Well, going to the hospital was the proper thing to do, and depending on what happened there's a lot of things they need to, rule out. If he turns out okay, but still has a little nagging problem, yes, there's always things that you can throw in the body. And, I'm fond of saying, when in America did we start thinking that the temple of the Holy Spirit is not smart? It's very brilliant. We've forgotten that God gave us an immune system. Most of us have forgotten there's a God. Your body's very, very brilliant. So, yes, there's things we can do. And, he should have gone to the hospital. Very appropriate.
And she also wants to know, how do you go about finding a good old GI doc?
Who knows? How do you find a good husband or wife? Sometimes you have to shop around a while, and, that's the same way with doctors, whether they're medical or chiropractic or naturopathic. You shop around, not that they're good or bad, but you have to find one that fits you. It's whether it's a good fit rather than whether they're good or not.
Maybe they need to be on like Tinder or something like that, where you can plug in what you're looking for, and like they do with the mate. I don't know.
Well, I don't know anything about that. I'm surprised you do.
I watch shows.
Oh yeah, Lifetime movies.
What types of tests do you think a good doctor should be running?
I don't know. That's out of my scope of practice.
Well, I can tell you here, when we're running tests, and it's not, not related to serious GI issues, but, sometimes it does. We do have things for GI stuff, but when we're running our labs, we're doing 12 different panels. It's very comprehensive, and most of the time when you go to your doctor, and we still see them coming here, they're running 1 to 3 panels or none at all. I've had several people in here say they hadn't even run any blood tests on me yet, but 1 to 3 panels is, in our opinion, not really enough to do much with. So we run 12 because we don't like guessing at what's going on with your health. The other side to that is that insurance is involved, and that's one of the reasons they run so little lab, is because the insurance companies just won't allow more than that. With us, we do not do insurance, and that's what allows us to run the lab and do more panels and do it at a very low cost, because we've taken that person out. So it's just between us and the lab, and then you're the person that's getting the benefits of that to get well. So if you've not experienced that and you're new to listening to our show and you want to know more about how to get lab, we do it across the United States. You go to greenwisdomhealth.com, fill out the health survey. It will suggest a lab panel to you. You can actually complete that process right online, and it will you'll have the lab order there to print out to go right to your local lab, and then Dr. Lewis will go over all that lab with you, and you pick the panel that's one of our special panels that starts with GWH. His 30-minute consultation is included. We tell you what vitamins and supplements that you're missing, and then that way you can start getting your immune system back and not be guessing at what's going on with your health. You can get your stress under control, because cortisol is one of those tests that's on there. We can see how you're digesting things, if you're eliminating correctly, because that's another reason why you could be sick or just not getting well. There's just so much on there that we need to be looking at, so that you don't have these horrible sicknesses that are coming up in this flu season. I guess we've got time for one more question, which I had more of them. Carl wants to know, are there any health benefits from raw local honey? And if there are health benefits from raw local honey, is light or dark better? And do you suggest having the comb or not? Oh, Lord. I had a flashback. Dr. Lewis used to do bees, and he actually helped harvest some of the honey with a friend of his, and I had never had the comb, and he said, here's you a piece of comb. He said, have you ever tried this? He said, you just chew on it. It's kind of like gum. And I thought, okay, so I stuck it in my mouth, and something squirted out of it, and it was
a bee larva.
A bee larva, and I would pass personally on the comb, even though it's totally healthy for you. But you can answer that.
I'm not sure I gave that to Janet. Let's blame Jim on that.
Yeah, so somebody gave it to me. He's like, I will not eat any more comb again. That's where they live.
I think there are a lot of health benefits. Now, if you have high blood sugar and toward diabetes, that might not be a good idea. And honey's great in small amounts. It's good because you get the pollen, and then your body begins to build antibodies to that. Light or dark does not matter, and that just depends on where the bees get the majority of their pollen. Like buckwheat honey is very, very dark, where some of the wildflower honey is very light, and they taste different. You can be a connoisseur of that also. I buy it from the local, the little old man on the side of the road and support him. Do not get the stuff out of the big stores because most of it is fake. And I guess I need to go check on. I've got 8 hives. I don't like messing with them. They sting me sometimes. But I guess I should go harvest my own honey. I sent my last jar to Frank in California.
But that's all we have time for today, and we'll answer the rest of these questions next week. If you want to leave us questions, there's a form on our website. You can fill it in there and ask, and you could be featured on the show. And also on our Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis Facebook group, you're invited to join that as well. We appreciate you listening to our show, and we'll be here next week. And in the meantime, stay healthy.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.